technologies, and more. We are looking for someone with a background in economic development, experience in the creative industries, and ability to collaboratively center the work in racial equity and social justice. Applications are due by February 23rd. For more information on the position and how to apply, email the Seattle Office of Economic Development at oed@seattle.gov.
1, 2, get down.
What's up, big and little homies? This is Masvita Maraire, host of Seattle Sports Weekly on Rainier Avenue Radio World, your one-stop shop for Seattle sports. We cover preps, we cover college, we cover pro, we cover it all. Huskies, Mariners, Seahawks, Garfield, South, Roosevelt, Metro, King County. This is what you want to listen to for all the sports that's happening in Seattle. Seattle Sports Weekly on Rainier Avenue Radio World.
See a bad mother.
This is the news on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Set to become an unrestricted free agent in March, San Francisco 49ers cornerback Richard Sherman next National Football League stop is likely to be his last. Sherman, who will be 33 in March and has long maintained that he wants to play until he's 35, told Stephen A. Smith on his ESPN Plus show, Stephen A's World, that he intends to follow through on that plan and laid out what the rest of his National Football League career might look like. I only want to play 2 more seasons, Sherman said. I want to get on a competitive team. I think I still have a lot to give to the game. I still have a lot to that I want to accomplish, and I think I can go out there and help a defense come together like it should and reach their potential, reach their heights that the defenses that I've played on have reached.
And that's your news on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Would you like to see when your favorite Rainier Avenue Radio show comes on? Check out our show schedule, updated weekly at rainieravenue.radio.world.
Well, welcome once again. It is Monday night. This is Monday Night Sports. I'm your boy Dupe, Rick DuPree, along with Edwin Bailey. And welcome to another show here. And you know what? A lot of things going on. And in a few minutes, we want to shift our gears, talk Seahawks football again, as obviously the season wrapped up. Big Super Bowl win by the Tampa Bay Bucks last week? Good grief, man. But anyway, with that said, a couple things I want to point out, and you heard on the news, a lot of things going on here on Rainier Avenue Radio with Black History Month. Make sure to tune in, tomorrow night. We've got a lot going on. Wednesday night, we have live shows at the Columbia Theater, the historic Columbia City Theater, and you want to make sure to get over there. Wednesday night, that'll be going on at 8:00, and then Friday night, workshops going on, film night. So just a lot going on here at Rainier Avenue Radio. Now, I also want to mention, there you see it up on the screen. Thank you, Daniel. And so make sure to keep that in mind. A couple of quick things I think are real interesting that caught my attention. Yesterday, the Daytona 500 over the weekend, and was it yesterday or the day before? But anyway, Bubba Wallace. Now, we have talked about him quite a bit on the show here, and Bubba Wallace, now driving for the Michael Jordan, the number 23 team. Anyway, get this. This is crazy. In the Daytona 500, Bubba Wallace became the first Black driver to lead a lap in the Daytona 500. Can you believe that? I mean, how crazy is that? This is 2021, and that is a first. And he finished, I believe it was 17th overall in the race. But in the first drive, when I heard that, I was like, wait a minute, I had to look it up, and that was a surprise, no doubt. So the first Black driver in the history of NASCAR to lead a lap in the Daytona 500. Anyway, I just thought that was kind of interesting. Also, one other note of thing of note. Thank you. See, look at Daniel is on it, giving us a little bit of video as I'm talking about it. Another thing that was real interesting to me, if you look back in history, you got to go way, way back. But on February 15th, 1978, down in Las Vegas, Nevada, there was probably my favorite athlete of all time, Muhammad Ali, and was taking on Leon Spinks. And Spinks was a 10-1 underdog in that. in that fight. And as you remember, beat Muhammad Ali. Man, that was, I think, a shocker. But that was on this date back in 1978. So a couple of quick little trivia things I thought were interesting, wanted to bring to your attention. Look at you, man. Okay, Daniel, I got to do a better job. My bad, man. Of letting you know some stuff that I want to talk about. That you got the video, but see, I don't even have to tell Daniel. He's on it. So if you just joined us, you're listening to Monday Night Sports right here on Rainier Avenue Radio. I'm Dupe. And one of the things I want to talk about, all season long, Edwin and I have been talking a little bit about, thank you, nice video there, have been talking about, the Seahawks, follow the Seahawks all the way to, unfortunately, their loss in the playoffs, but and then followed, obviously, the NFL all the way through. But with that said, one of the interesting things came out in the news, last week, and we had some people last week talking about, Seahawks, are they going to trade Russell Wilson? Well, Russell Wilson came out and voiced some displeasure, said, we got to do a better job protecting me. And when you think about it, so I kind of looked it up and kind of knew this, but listen to this real quickly. Then we're going to welcome Bob Condotta of the Seattle Times. He has been with the Times for years and covers the Seahawks. I want to get his take not only on this, but more so on what the Seahawks need to do in this offseason. What are some of the moves? You've heard me and Edwin talk about this, that probably the number one, in our opinion, number one area they need to focus on offensive line, then defensive line. But one of the things, now listen to this real quickly, and then we're going to bring Bob on. Russell Wilson, well, let's just take a look at the Seahawk playoff loss against the Rams. He was sacked 5 times in that game, hit 10 times, pressured a season high, almost 44% of his dropbacks. And this comes to mind because you look at the Super Bowl, and I tell you what, Tampa Bay put a lot of pressure on Patrick Mahomes. He was running for his life most of the time, and he, as well as Russell Wilson, even with all that pressure, still come up with some great plays. But listen to this. This was the crazy thing. In 9 seasons, Russell Wilson has been sacked 394 times. That's an average of 43.8 sacks per season, more than any other quarterback since the merger of the AFL and the NFL back in 1970. And he's on track. If he stays on that pace, he will be the most sacked quarterback in the history of the NFL in just 3 years. And he'll surpass Brett Favre, has been sacked the most, 525 times. But 3 more seasons, if they stay on that pace, and he'll be the most sacked quarterback of all time. And I mean, again, he obviously plans to play a number of years, so he's going to surpass that 525 at some point. But you hope it's not that quickly. So anyway, with that said, let's welcome to the show from the Seattle Times, Bob Condotta, and we want to talk a little bit about, like I said, about kind of what is going on with the Seahawks and what we're looking to. Oh, we lost him, so we'll get him back. But what is going on with the Seahawks? Hey, there he is, Bob. How you doing?
Good.
Welcome to the show.
Good. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and I can
Okay.
see you, man. Thanks
Okay.
for taking some time out of your schedule to join us. We appreciate it. Also, welcoming the big guy, Edwin Bailey, and Bob. You heard me talking a little bit, so real quickly, I don't want to focus on that much, but it's interesting to me that people are surprised that Russell Wilson voicing some displeasure. And, I think you brought up a good point. I was reading some of the stuff that you wrote, and that throughout his career, he's been a guy who's always said positive things. And so when he says something like this kind of unannounced, I think maybe it surprises people. But, looking at the fact that he's been sacked so many times, that can't be a surprise.
No, but I do think the organization's a little surprised simply because the timing of it, in a way. I mean, obviously the organization admitted there's some issues with the offense by firing Brian Schottenheimer and then hiring 2 other guys to basically redo the offense. And so, I think they feel like they've heard Russell's, point on this, and that they're trying to do some things to fix it. So, I think the timing of this, maybe that it sort of came, a couple weeks after the season. He didn't say any of this when he held his end of season press conference or, Zoom thing, which was 5 days after the season and all that. So, I get why some people maybe are sort of just wondering like why now, and why throw your offensive line under the bus kind of thing. I mean, those guys are trying hard, and you could argue that the offensive line was better last year than it's been a lot of other years, especially when they had their starting 5 guys. That was one of the big issues with the offense down the stretch, was simply because after the 5th game, they were only able to start their regular starting line basically 2 more times the rest of the year. So,
Yeah.
That was that. Dwayne Brown had a great year, and I think they felt like Brandon Shell played really well, and Damian Lewis was a rookie who made everybody's all rookie team. So I think the team feels like there's the core of a decent line there. They've obviously got to get better at the one guard spot, and the center position is sort of up in the air with the guys being free agents and stuff like that.
Right.
So there's some things they got to do there for sure. But I think the organization feels like they already knew it was an issue, and so maybe they didn't need Russell to say this right now.
Well, I think some frustration though obviously said it. Edwin, I want to get your take real quickly, and that is just, hearing what Russell Wilson said, you playing in that position, how would you take that? I mean, again, if you're performing or not, and you take a look, and he was pressured and sacked so many times. But as an offensive lineman, I mean, do you take that personally and feel like he's calling you out, or is it, hey, we got to get our job done? Edwin, looks like you're muted there. We don't. You see the joys of the pandemic and internet. We'll get Edwin when he gets us out. I want him to comment on that. But Bob, I mean, you mentioned the fact the Seahawks have made this move. They brought in Waldron and Dickerson, and talk about how significant that is. How significant of a move will that be for the Seahawks, or could it be?
Yeah, well, to me, it's a really interesting one from, bringing both those guys together and having Dickerson is going to be the run game coordinator and then Waldron do the offensive coordinating. You're bringing 2 guys from a offense that has a really significant personality to it. The Los Angeles Rams style with all the things that they do, trying to do a lot of things out of simple formations, but trying to do a lot of motioning and things like that, where they, a lot of quicker passing and shorter passing, a lot of the it'll be interesting to see a lot of the fly sweep stuff. They've always done fly sweep and jet sweep stuff they do with their receivers. If that's, something they would continue to try to incorporate as well. When they hired Brian Schottenheimer last time, Schottenheimer had been around a little bit, had been a couple different places. It was maybe a little bit hard for people to know like exactly what is the offense going to be. I think in this case, people are really curious to see, these guys come from the Sean McVay system. So is this going to be a complete, 100% takeover of the Sean McVay system, or how much of it do you mix or whatever? So from that standpoint, they really made a statement of, we're hiring 2 guys who have a lot of history with this one specific kind of system, which has sort of, been one of the dominant, the last few years anyway, a system that a lot of people have tried to run aspects of with their offense. And so from that standpoint, I think it's something that you could really look at and this is the first time Pete Carroll under him, they've really hired, some people with a really defined, some really defined characteristics to what their offense is.
Yeah, no doubt. No, good point. If you just joined us, we're talking with Seattle Times.
All right,
Right. Hey, there's Edwin, Bob Condotta, and Edwin. Hold on, I want to just comment on what Bob said, and then I want to get your take on just how do you take what Russell Wilson said. But before Edwin, I have you answer that. Bob, you talk about. I mean, you have this coming. What I thought was real interesting is that you have an offensive coordinator guy who really has been over the past, offense for the Rams. But then you bring in somebody who's focused on, kind of that line, and has had experience there. So, I mean, that's saying a lot, in addition to maybe moves they will make, but certainly, like you said, one of the first times in Pete Carroll's career, and they are making a very dedicated, deliberate move here to address some of the issues that they've been facing.
Yeah, no doubt about it. This is the 4th offensive coordinator Pete's had. In 2011, they brought in Darrell Bevel and Tom Cable together. And Cable, obviously, they really, especially once they got Russell, but even before that, they really wanted to have a really good, strong running game. They'd acquired Marshawn Lynch. And so you could see it in 2011 and 12, what they were sort of going to with their offense. And then obviously that maybe just ran its course, and they got rid of both Cable and Bevel in 2017 and brought in Mike Solari and Brian Schottenheimer at that time. So they've sort of done this before, where they've sort of brought in a coordinator and a line coach to sort of have them work together to put together a whole new thing. But like I say, in this case, you're bringing in 2 guys who basically, for both these guys, their primary background at the NFL level is with one specific system. Yeah. And so, so I don't think it's an accident at all that they really want these guys to bring a lot of elements of what we've seen the Los Angeles Rams do under Sean McVay to Seattle.
Yeah, no, good point. Bob, hold on. I want to have Edwin answer that question, but I want to have you focus a little bit on what are some of the needs, kind of what you've seen, what you're hearing, where the Seahawks will go, and whether it's through the draft or whether it's through free agency, whatever the case may be, because I know they don't have a lot of picks. But Edwin, curious to say, looking at or hearing what Bob said earlier, I mean, how much do you, as an offensive lineman, if your quarterback, is making some comments, about being protected. And again, you take a look at the fact that he has been sacked, he has been pressured quite a bit. How do you take that as an offensive lineman? How do you think these guys are taking his
the Chuck Knox had a saying that to thine self be true.
Yeah.
I played in the game where Dave Craig took 7 sacks and we still won, and everybody said, oh, you should be happy that you won. Nah, I'm sick because of the sacks.
Mm-hmm.
This is a run pass option. Most of their passing game. And our quarterback, Seattle Seahawks quarterback, has good legs. So that means you're gonna have to protect that edge because you want your best defenders, and which most of them are gonna come off the edge, that you're gonna have to protect. And he's been taking some hits. There you go, off the edge, number 15.
Yeah.
They can be upset all they want. The proof is in the pudding. Look at it. Put the case on.
Well, Edwin, I got a question for you that I want to ask Bob about this as well. But I would think at some point when you talk about your era and when you guys, there had to be some leaders that stepped up and said, "Hey, you guys, we're not getting the job done." And I'm curious if from Bob's perspective, if you feel like the Seahawks have that. But Edwin, I would think that there's got to be that leader or leaders that step up and that are in that position say, guys, we got to protect them better.
It's always a good thing to have your old heads in the offensive line. The tackles, some of the inside guys. Hey, it's not how loud you say it. It's what you say while you're in the huddle. And somebody needs to say, hey, you know what you can do good. You know what you're doing well. If so goes Russell Wilson, so goes the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
And if he's not happy, I'm happy that he's making a mention of it. That he has a problem with it. That means everybody needs to get on their game. The team has to change. Something has to go on. And I like the offensive line. I think they got a good gel of young guys, some old heads, and some tough guys. It has to get better. Yeah,
no doubt.
Because when he was winning, when he was winning Super Bowls and playing the Super Bowls, he wasn't complaining. He didn't make it to the Super Bowl. He didn't win this year. So, hey, why not?
Yeah. If you just joined us, you're listening to Monday Night Sports. I'm Dupe. That's Edwin Bailey, and Bob Condotta of the Seattle Times is our guest. And Bob, I want to shift gears a little bit. Well, I do want to ask a question, though. Edwin talked about, you mentioned as well, there's this nice mix of younger guys and veterans on the offensive line. From your perspective, what you've seen, is there that leadership in that position that will also take kind of this team, by the reins, say, hey, guys, we got to improve?
Oh, sure. I mean, Dwayne Brown is one of the strongest leaders on this team in any stand. And he's one of those guys who's one of the most respected guys throughout the league, but if not just with the team, but, been in the Pro Bowl a bunch of times, and a guy that the Seahawks, I think he's 30, he'll be 35 years old, or is 35 years old now. He definitely has that kind of cachet. So for sure, maybe they need some more of that, but I think Dwayne Brown has been great that way. And that was one of the things when they traded for him in 2017, they did really want that. I think they felt like there had been so much turnover online for a couple of years there. And I think they felt like that was sort of an issue of, maybe who is the leader of the line or whatever, that guy that everyone will talk to or listen to. But there's no question about that at all with Dwayne now.
Yeah. That's and you're right, sir. That's very important. When you lose a tackle, a Hall of Fame tackle, Hall of Fame guard, you lose a lot of credibility, and guys that understand what's going on and what's about to happen, and Brown, you're right. I can see that in Brown, and you just, if you watch the huddle, watch whose head is popping in the huddle. That'll tell you who's talking. You know, and you gotta get prepared for it. You know, and you know, I think that Wilson could easily be the best quarterback in the league. You want to protect that.
No doubt about that.
You want to keep him clean, you know, and if he's complaining about getting hit, and everybody's saying, oh well, he's never complained before. Okay, that should tell you something.
Yeah, no doubt.
A little too much.
Yeah, and you saw Daniel had the comments that Russell Wilson made on the screen there, but yeah, there they are. And you know, I mean, I think it's fair. I don't want to belabor the point, but I think that's fair. But to Bob's point earlier, is it, you know, maybe a little bit of surprise, you know, obviously for the franchise. Shifting gears, Bob, talk about, like I said, Edwin and I have talked about offensive line, defensive line being key areas where the Seahawks, you know, need improvement. It was, you know, made some nice moves, you know, last year to bring some guys in that really helped there. But as you take a look at this team, and what are you hearing? What are they thinking off season? Where are they focused in, and how are they going to get better?
Well, yeah, I mean, the draft is going to be difficult because they don't have their first or third round picks. So they only have one pick in the first 120 or so. That at the moment it's 120, but that could move down depending on the compensatory pick. So they only have one pick in the first 3 rounds. So, you know, it's going to be difficult to get a lot out of the draft at the top end anyway. I mean, at the moment they only have 4 picks overall. Free agency is, you know, always a little bit of a gamble. The Seahawks have never been a team to go spend a lot of money on any one player in free agency. They've always preferred to pay their own guys a lot of money, which is usually left not a lot to go after you know, outside free agents. At the moment, they don't have a lot of cap space. Cap space can sort of always be created, but they have a lot of their own guys. They're going to need to do things with, you know, Jamal Adams. Are they going to give him an extension? Do they re-sign KJ Wright, Chris Carson, Shaquille Griffin? They have some key free agents of their own that could take up a lot of that cap space. So, you know, I think they'll try some things for sure. But you know, it's never been that easy to just go spend a lot of money on and buy an offensive line. But again, you know, I think they feel like they're set at tackle. Maybe the rest of the world doesn't, but they got Dwayne Brown and Brandon Shells, their 2 tackles, and I think they're happy with those guys. And then Damian Lewis, you know, the rookie is the right guard. I think they're really happy with him. So
yeah, he had a great season. Yeah.
So you're talking about a center and a left guard. You know, there's a couple of decent centers out there, but they might cost a lot more than you want. And then, you know, there's some guards out there you could go get for sure to kind of plug in there. But, you know, I don't know if they'll go make some huge trade or something like that for an offensive lineman. I think they need to add a third receiver. I think they need to do something to bolster the tight end spot. You know, on the defensive line, probably like on defense with the front 7, the biggest decisions are Carlos Dunlap and KJ Wright. And do you keep those guys, and at what price do you keep them?
You know, I tell you what, Edwin and I talked about this all season long. Carlos Dunlap came in and I thought did a phenomenal job. And he's a long, lanky guy, and, you know, getting his hands up and blocking passes. But KJ Wright, I'm going to tell you what, KJ Wright, in my opinion, had one of his best, if not his best seasons. He showed up, and I mean, he had a great season. I mean, he just had a great season. I think those are 2 guys. Yeah, as you said, at what price? But 2 guys that you want to make sure you keep.
You're right. You're totally right. The problem with the good thing for KJ is he played so well that his market is probably going to be a lot higher than the team might have thought it would have been after this year. And KJ told us when we talked to him the last time, you know, he'd be open to playing somewhere else. And so, you know, KJ's getting to the age where you got to think a little bit about, is this your last chance to really get a huge payday? And so, it won't surprise me if he sort of gets to free agency and hits the market and sees what's out there. And then the Seahawks would have to try to match that. And Dunlap, to make clear, he is under contract for next year, but he's at a $14.1 million cap hit. And I don't think people have thought he would play under that cap hit. So the Seahawks are probably going to have to do something with that contract, if it's an extension or something like that, to try to lessen the cap hit a little bit. I think they'll try to keep him. But if they do that, you know, that's probably their big move with the defensive line. And you're probably not going to see them, you know, spend a lot of money on another defensive lineman if they do that to keep Carlos. Because, you know, with Carlos, obviously, you know how he fits in your defense now. So it'd be much less of a risk than going and signing another free agent from somewhere.
Well, you take a look. Go ahead, Edwin. Sorry.
Excuse me for cutting y'all.
You know, go ahead.
I really do like KJ Wright, you know, and I think what has happened on the team since he's been here, the Super Bowls and all the things that he's experienced, I really think right now he's at that level of play that he's playing for the Hall of Fame. I think he has been that productive. I love the Mike Backer. I love him. His inside play is just incredible. But I think KJ Wright is just, he's got the size, the ability to want to. The kid has been very, very productive since he's been here, and it shows with the team's record and how they've been playing.
Yeah, no doubt. And he just, again, showed up this year and had, if not, like I said, his best season, one of the best of his career. Bob, just a couple minutes and we'll let you go. You talked about a receiver. Who's out there? And then tight end as well, because that was one of my favorite. I looked at bringing in Greg Olson, and just I liked that tight end core. What may happen there? And then if there's a receiver out there, what are they looking for?
Yeah, well, you're right. Yeah, so Greg Olson's going to retire. Luke Wilson, it wasn't really a factor last year anyway, but he's a free agent and probably won't be back. Jacob Hollister will be a free agent, so that's a guy they have to make a decision on. At the moment, the only two tight ends who've played, who they have under contract, are Colby Parkinson and Will Dissly. Now, obviously, they're going to hope that Will Dissly maybe will be a lot better next year, coming off this year. He played off two really significant injuries, but they definitely have to add someone to that mix. And there was a rumor over the weekend that they've inquired about Zach Ertz of the Philadelphia Eagles, who is kind of on the trade block in part because of his contract. So, we'll see if they really go out and make an aggressive move like that. Receiver they really need to get a third receiver for sure. There's guys like Juju Smith-Schuster is a really intriguing name who's a free agent. There's never any lack of free agent receivers out there. There'll probably be more. Terrell Williams just became a free agent the other day. When he got released, he was a guy that I think Seattle was interested in the last time he was in free agency as well. I think they want to re-sign Philip Dorsett and try to give him another run at it. Maybe they re-sign David Moore as well and try to see if he could take that next step. But I would definitely think they'll sign a veteran free agent to try to compete for that third receiver spot. And I think internally they might feel like that was something else that happened to the offense, that you had two great receivers, obviously, in DK and Tyler Lockett. But I think they felt like when teams really focused on those guys, they didn't have enough around them to really make opponents pay on a consistent basis. David Moore made some really big plays from time to time, but, he wasn't maybe getting 5 catches a game, just sort of that numerical consistency where, he could suddenly maybe be that guy who could take a drive over.
Yeah, absolutely. Bob, thanks so much for taking some time.
Sure.
Man, if you have not checked him out, Bob Condotta with the Seattle Times. Where else can people? The Twitter. Where else can people?
Yeah, Twitter is just at B Condotta, BCONDOTTA. So yeah, either there or in the pages of the Seattle Times or online in the Seattle Times are the best places.
Yeah. Well, Bob, I've enjoyed reading your stuff over the years, and thanks for taking some time out of your schedule to join us. And forgive me,
I was saying thanks for having me. No, that's okay. That's okay.
Correct me, man. If someone
that's okay.
Anyway, Bob Condotta, Seattle Times. Thanks so much. I appreciate you taking some time out.
Yeah, thank you very much, you guys. Yeah, thank you very much, Edwin. All right.
Take care. So make sure, like I said, to check out Bob's stuff. And there you go. Yeah, you have it on the screen. Thank you, Daniel. So Edwin, man, some interesting comments there. And I think some work to be done at the tight end. We got about a minute left here. So you and I can continue this conversation next week. But it'd be interesting to see out in free agency. And maybe over the week, we'll take a look at some of the other free agents out there and where the Seahawks might go.
I'm gonna do some homework, Rick.
Yes.
I'm gonna do some homework for the next couple of days. Look at some tight ends. Because we need somebody that's not that we need to create that edge, but we need somebody that's going to stretch the defense. Yeah,
and like I said, with Greg Olson, I knew that was likely he was going to retire, and obviously he is. So anyway, that's going to do it for the big guy and myself. And remember, stay tuned not only right now here on Rainier Avenue Radio for Lidline, but also all week and the rest of the month as we celebrate Black History Month. A lot going on. Conversations in Black tomorrow with Tina on tech. And then also tomorrow night, West African music. And then Wednesday exhibition, or rather I should say a live music performance at the historic Columbia City Theater. And every Wednesday we have stuff going on there during Black History Month. And then Friday night, film night, family Friday film night. So make sure to join us there. For Edwin Bailey, for Daniel B., and for the upcoming Lidline with Granville and Pepe and the team, I'm Dupe, Rick DuPree. Until next week, peace and God bless.
Hey, Rick, I'm sorry I was late. I'll be early the next